Greeting everyone and welcome to another session of our web design by WordPress course. We're going into the second module, which is Introduction to Web Design. And in this module, in our module objectives, we're saying that by the end of this module, you should be able to define terms used in website design. You should be able to understand and identify the different concepts of web design and the content management system. You should also be able to explain the anatomy of a website and the different types of websites that are available. You should also be able to understand the theory and practice of web design. And then lastly, you should be able to plan and design different websites. So let's look at the first one, which is the introduction to web design. So when we talk about web design, we're talking about the many different skills and disciplines in the production and maintenance of websites. In most cases, it's not an individual working by himself. It's mainly many individuals who work in teams covering the different aspects of design process. Although you might find some designers cover the whole process themselves. Like, for instance, you're now being taught to be a web designer. In most cases, you'll cover the design by yourself. And we look at the different types of web designers or different types of different teams involved in the web design process. So when you talk about web design, it's normally used to describe the design process relating to the front end, which is usually the client side design of a website. So this is what the client will see. This is when you open up a website. When you open up a given website, for instance, Facebook, this is what you see. This is the client side, what the client sees when he opens up a website on the browser. And we're talking about the different areas of web design. So mostly you'll find these teams or these areas has different teams who are involved in the production of the website. So let's look at these areas. So one of them is graphic design using the different tools, for instance, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, Adobe User Experience or User Interface Designer to actually do a topographic representation of how the website is going to look when it is complete. So talk about the pictures, talk about the text of what is going to be used in the design of the website. And then we have the second one, which is the web graphic development. So when you're using WordPress, most of the development is already handled, and this is in the form of the themes, in the form of the plugins that you're going to use. But if you are a web developer, you need to write the code that is going to run the website. But in most cases, when you're doing web design by WordPress, this is already handled by the plugins that you're going to use and also the themes that you're going to use. Another area that of focus to us is user interface design. Talk about the UI design. So how the website is going to look, what is going to be displayed, what font is going to be used. So in most cases, you'll find a team that is basically their core function is to design the user interface. And apart from the user interface, you'll also find a team that their core function is to design the user experience. So from this page, where does that page lead us to? When we open up this page, what are we able to do on that page? And that's what we mean by the user experience. And then we have the last team, which is going to do the marketing and search engine optimization. So most probably when you create a website, it's just a document. You need to get people to understand that there's this website that people need to visit. And that's where now marketing comes in, telling people about your website. And then search engine optimization. When somebody searches a product, for instance, I'm looking for web design training. So what normally comes up in the searches. That's how you optimize your website for search engines. So when somebody searches that product or web design, your product should be the first, at least the first three to appear on the search engine. So these are the different areas that we are going to look at. Maybe later on, step by step, talk about web graphic design, talk about development, UI design, UX design, and search engine optimization. So when we talk about web design versus web development, and we're going to talk a little bit more about this in later modules, but when we talk about web design and web development, and it needs to be clear of such that there's no confusion about it. So when we talk about web design, in most cases we are referring to the design of the websites that are displayed on the internet. A web designer works on the appearance, works on the layout, and in some cases works on the content of the website. But on the other hand, a web developer is a programmer. You can see that difference. A designer is just a designer, works on the design. But a developer is a programmer who specializes in or specifically engaged in the development of web application using a client server model. So don't confuse the two between a web designer and a web developer. In this course, this should get you started as a web designer and not a developer, because later on we're going to see more differences between what is a web designer and what is a web developer. So for us, we are more concerned with web design rather than web development. Web development is a little bit more complicated because now you need to program. You need to become a programmer, whereby you program the different codes that run the website. So basically that's it for this introduction part of it. Now you will have gained an understanding on web design and web developer, even though we are going to look at this much deeper when in our successive modules. That's it for this module. See you in the next module.